Well, parents in Montgomery County, Maryland are outraged after learning their kid's school district has adopted a gender identity policy designed to keep them in the dark. Now, according to the 14-page gender identity handbook, students fill out a secret intake form that is intentionally left out of their permanent record, which parents can access. So the handbook instructs teachers that before they contact a student's parents, they should, quote, speak with the student to ascertain the level of support the student receives or anticipates receiving from home. And finally, to the extent possible and consistent with these guidelines, school personnel will make efforts to maintain the confidentiality of the student's transgender status. Fox Digital reached out to the school district, which did not immediately comment on the complaint, citing policy not to comment on pending litigation. Kaylee, what an absolute travesty. And I note that in California, the courts have dealt with this by saying this is not okay, issuing an emergency stay while it winds through their court system, but acknowledging publicly and judiciously that keeping a secret from parents is the worst thing you can do.
Absolutely, it is. Who cares about the child more? Do we believe Montgomery County cares about the child more? Do we believe the state of New Jersey cares about the child more than the parent? Absolutely not. And we have seen several of these cases across the country where the student's changing their gender identity. It is concealed from the parent, and the child ends up attempting to commit suicide. So imagine that you are a parent who 9 times out of 10 loves your child more than 9 times out of 10, so much more than the school district does. But these policies are statewide. In the state of Maine, they found at least 50 school jurisdictions that were implementing policies like this. 80% of constituents in Maine are against them, and yet this is implemented against the will of the majority. But to your point, we have cause for great hope because of Mirabelli v. Bonta, the decision that was decided by the Supreme Court. It's an emergency ruling, preliminary injunction, but the majority found that they believe there's an embedded right in the 14th Amendment to engage in the upbringing of your child and the overt First Amendment right of freedom that is listed there as well. So 2 constitutional bases, religious freedom, 14th Amendment. And I think we're going to see these policies end once and for all. And you can thank the reasonable justices of the Supreme Court. Should be 9-0, won't be, should be.
I mean, this underscores how important these judicial positions are, not the activist judges, but the ones with common sense, and thus how important it is for the president to appoint judges that will indeed uphold the Constitution and the law. And Kennedy, the whole point, I mean, I see this as just straight up spiritual warfare and an attempt at communist takeover. What does it feel like as a parent to have a school district attempt something like this?
Yeah, I mean, my girls have gone to school in New York and LA, their entire academic careers before college, for the older one, obviously. And I was talking to one vice principal who has since quit because this was at my daughter's old school, because she said, kids are coming in with a new gender and new names and new identifications, and then they change them. And if you don't call them by their new preferred name, they will file a complaint against you. And so this vice principal had it and had been working as an educator for 25 years and, you know, had quit in frustration because they had created the system where kids were encouraged to do that. And then when they finally did reach out to the parents, they say what they say to every set of parents, which is, what would you rather have, a live son or a dead girl? And, you know, the idea that all of these kids who are, you know, they feel like misfits, they are confused, they don't feel like they fit in the world. They're now being told, well, if you identify as something else, all of those problems, all of that anxiety will just magically go away. Well, it doesn't. And now when they're doing honest studies, you see that. And if children do suffer from suicidal ideation, you have to treat that mental illness before you jump to, well, why don't you just claim you're a different gender? And these laws do not protect the privacy of children under 18. But that's what Montgomery County is claiming, that they are shielding these kids and their privacy. If your child is under 18 and you are a parent, they do not have privacy from you because they are minor children. And these are massive decisions that families and parents should embark upon together and honestly.
And we have to acknowledge the influence, David, because if the influence is either coming from home or it's coming from peers and the internet and these policies where someone is whispering into their ear, you're not enough and you are a misfit and you're not created as a masterpiece and fully whole. You need something else to make you feel that way. And keeping secrets from parents means that they have no idea who's influencing their child in that horrific way.
Well, you used the word communism. And in fact, that's what the first thing that communist states do when they take over is to get the children, is to indoctrinate the children in so many different ways. I mean, in Nicaragua, where my wife is from, that happened when the Sandinistas took over. It's happened in China, of course. There are many cases of that. And it is happening here not only in the schools, but as we know, Dr. Oz and other people in Medicare and Medicaid are looking into fraud, the big one being Minnesota, or at least the first one we heard about. The really big ones now are in New York and in California. There's a guy named Nate Friedman who's been going to a lot of child care centers in New York, one of which gets millions and millions of dollars from Medicaid for the operations they have, and they deal with illegal migrants. A lot of illegal migrants are there, and now it turns out a lot of these illegal migrants, by the way, are from Latin America, which is very Catholic and don't want their kids to be exposed to this, but where they are actually giving hormones. They're bringing medical services onto the child care site and offering to 12 to 18-year-olds this hormone therapy to stop them from becoming men or women, and without the parents knowing a thing about it. This guy Nate Friedman has been doing some extraordinary work about this, and Dr. Oz, I am told, is looking into it.
These laws are horrifying. In California, to be considered fit as a foster parent, you have to sort of pledge that you would indeed support this type of gender-bending thing. So here we have kids that need care, and these policies, I mean, that's a separate point, but it all relates that these policies and laws are...
No, but you bring up a good point. I mean, the issue with what you just brought up has to do with those foster parents, and I have sensitivity around this because I grew up in a home with a social worker mom. Those foster parents or would-be adoptive parents have to agree that you will address the child based on how they are identifying, and give them everything they need to do to stay in that lane. Now, I'm paraphrasing how the legal language is, but that's also leaving the parent out. I mean, you're then being forced to, if you want this kid, then you got to do everything that the state says that's necessary around that one issue, which, by the way, can change when they hit puberty. I mean, Dr. Siegel has told us that. I look at this from a different direction, and Kennedy, you struck a chord with me. So if our kid goes out and commits a crime, you're going to call me. But if my kid comes to you and says, well, I'm thinking of taking my life because I don't really know how I identify, and I want to go home so I can talk to my parents, you don't call me? Yeah. Like, that makes no sense to me. And they're both important in different ways. It is fascinating where we've come. You talked a little bit about the U.S. Supreme Court, Kaylee Childs, the Christian, and that's what I was thinking of as you were talking, the Christian counselor who said, well, why don't we talk about how valuable everybody is? Why don't we, teach that child that no matter what they're feeling, this is how God sees you? Who just decided that 8-1? The U.S. Supreme Court on the very 14th Amendment that you were talking about, the free speech to reach these kids in those early ages with everything you can with your heart, with therapy, before you allow anybody to cut on them or lie to their parents that nothing's wrong while you try to deal with the kid, because that's really what's happening. And just by not telling us, you're lying to us.
Just a quick note, we were losing all of these religious freedom cases at the Supreme Court during my tenure in government, 5-4. Amy Coney Barrett getting to the court changed everything. And to your point about this being a spiritual issue, I think it was a spiritual matter that she made it onto the court at this time, for such time as this.
Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.